So at this point in the course, it's time to shift gears into demo mode. So no more slides for a little while, no more broad concepts. It's time to roll up our sleeves, stick right here in our reporting pane in Power BI, and focus on individual chart types and visualizations that we can use to build out this report view. So looking at what we have here, we've got orders by category, got order info by subcategory as well. We know that our AdventureWorks client really cares about product level performance too, not only in terms of orders, but in terms of how frequently certain products are being returned. So I need to capture some of that data here in our executive summary. And what I'd suggest that we do is use a matrix, which you're already familiar with. We use this quite a bit in the DAX section of the course. And this is a great way to show a lot of information without it being overwhelming. So we'll use some of the drill through capability here and some conditional formatting to make the numbers really pop. Now the data that I want to show lives in the sales table. So let's go ahead and grab total orders. We're going to pull that into values. And let's also pull return rate from our returns table as well. So we've got two columns of values, and the level at which we want to view these values, or the row labels that we want to use to segment them, will come from the product lookup table. And we actually want the product name. So I'll drag that into rows, expand this down a bit. So now we're looking at total orders and return rates at the product level. And one thing that's cool about these matrix views is that you can just click on the header and it will sort. So we can default to sort the products that drove the most orders. So in this case, we see that water bottle, 30-ounce water bottle drove the most orders, followed by the patch kit and then tire tubes. Now this is good. It's a lot of information here, but one thing that I think we can do to really make this come to life a bit more is add some conditional formatting. So we can go ahead and navigate to the format pane. And obviously you've got matrix specific formatting here. You can change different kind of matrix styles if you want. And again, you can always revert to the default. And generally speaking, the default is actually going to serve our purposes pretty well in most of these cases. So I'm not going to mess with tons of different formatting options as we build this out. But what I will do here is go all the way down to conditional formatting, and it lets you format each series individually. So starting with total orders, for this one, I want to add data bars, and you can see what each of these looks like. So those are data bars. That's the font color, and this is the background. So font color and background work same kind of way. It's just you're either updating just the font itself or the whole background of the cell. So for this total orders column, because it's a volume column, I kind of like using data bars, and that will really draw attention to the difference between some of our top drivers and some of our lower driver products in terms of orders. So I can stay right here in the formatting pane and format return rate. And instead of data bars for the return rate, because they're going to be kind of all over the place, what I'd rather do here is kind of a subtle background conditional format. So this is not subtle, this is very loud and aggressive. What I can do is drill into my advanced controls here and determine exactly what this gradient for my conditional format should look like. And in this case, instead of this crazy green to red scale, for something like return rate, which is a negative metric, what I'm going to do is reverse this first of all, because high values of return rate, that's a bad thing, not a good thing. And I'm going to adjust the colors themselves to make them a little bit more muted. So the maximum, meaning for bad return rates, I want this kind of pale red. And for the minimum, I want a white. So this basically means that products with an okay return rate or relatively low return rate will show up as white. There won't be huge negative attention drawn to them. And only the ones that really start to have some of the higher levels of return rates will start to pop with this red shading. So let's press OK there. And as you can see, it's pretty subtle, but in this case, it does get the job done. So you can see certain cases where individual products are popping a little bit more, like this Rhodes 650, whereas the other ones with kind of average or decent below average return rates those kind of just fade in with this white background. So feel free to make your own adjustments, but that's kind of my personal style. Keep it a little bit more muted while still drawing attention to the key trends. Now, last thing that I want to do with this matrix view is go back to fields, and instead of only showing the data by product, just like I showed you before, let's go ahead and grab the subcategory, which is beneath my product lookup. Bring the subcategory name in, as well as the category name. And then you know the drill, no pun intended, you can drill all the way back down. So now I'm seeing that same product level view, but I've just given the user the option to aggregate if they choose to do so. And one last note here, that little forked arrow, the third option, that will expand down all the way one by one until you're seeing not only the lowest level, the products, but you're also seeing them grouped into subcategories and then into categories. This is very much like the outline table layout in a pivot table in Excel. So just go ahead and drill back up and then back down to get back to where we started. So I love these matrix views. I think they're incredibly useful and insightful. They pack a ton of information, and these conditional formatting tools are great ways to really bring some of that data to life and expose some interesting patterns. So there you go. That's your report matrix view.